Welcome to the Wrong Indian Podcast.
Native Americans of all trades, masters of none.
What does that mean? Oh, we have a lot to say. We are not the expert.
But we talk to the experts on a variety of issues.
I'm Brittany Schulman.
Kenrick and Brittany.
This is the
Wrong NDN Podcast. And welcome back to the Wrong NDN Podcast. I'm Kenrick Escalante.
And I'm Brittany Schulman, and we are already back to a great start here at the Wrong NDN Podcast. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yeah, nothing says like welcome back from a hiatus than stumbling all over each other.
And that's okay, because you know what? We're not always right. Sometimes we're the wrong Indians.
So, I mean, just to get things started, again, I'm Kenrick Escalante. You can see that we have our handles down below. You can find me at KJ Escalante.
And you can find me at It's Brittany Schulman, Facebook, Instagram. I'm working on Twitter. I have an old name and it's a whole thing, but we'll be on Twitter soon.
Yeah, I don't know if you're ready for native Twitter. It's quite the buzz.
Oh, I love native Twitter. I am there. You just can't find me. So what have you been doing since season 1?
Yeah, I kind of feel like we need one of those like, recap things. I mean, we had season 1. It felt good and we did it on the seat of our pants, but we did it because we wanted to. And then we had all our plans for season 2. And then this thing called COVID-19 happened. So it kind of set us back. So what I've really been doing is just, trying to figure out when could we collaborate again? And if so, who would we interview? And as far as my personal life, the past year, just
you had a big move.
Yeah, I had a big move.
You're in a whole new place.
I'm a whole new place. It's not Disneyland, but it feels kind of, well, it doesn't feel much like a magical kingdom. But I did move to the Washington, D.C. area from Arizona, picked up the whole family and made it all the way over here. We live in Maryland.
In a cemetery. I've got a lot of friends who are going, no, thank you.
This isn't a joke. This isn't a joke. When we first got here, we came to Maryland. We did the whole like seat of our pants. We got to hurry up and get here. So we got an apartment and we stayed there until our lease ran out. And then we said, you know what, we need to find a house because that's we're a pretty large family. And we found a house. All right. I like to say it's a gated community.
Well, the neighbors are quiet, so
never bother us at all. I mean, believe me, I have lots of friends who they want them to bother us, but nobody's bothering us. Yes, we live in a cemetery. It's actually a graveyard, is what I've learned. I've learned that if it's not associated with a church, it's a graveyard.
Oh,
if it's associated,
learning things now.
Yeah, well, when you live in these type of areas, you kind of learn. You pick these things up. So, we live in a graveyard. It's a historic graveyard. So it's not like, live action or anything.
Live action.
I mean,
you don't have periodically folks on the, visiting or, creating new plots.
Yes and no. I mean, for the most part, we are historical, but down below or down a ways, as you would say.
Down below is a thing.
Yeah. There are some up and comers,
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some visitors, so it's quite unique. But joking aside, I mean it's beautiful. Yeah, it's quiet. We're surrounded by animals, deer, so many deer, but we love it. We love it. I mean, I come from Arizona. I'm a desert rat. I mean, I'm used to seeing like a coyote here and there, and lots of snakes. But
it's kind of like, from when we first met, we've switched lives. Like I was in the beautiful trees and deer situation, and now I'm in Albuquerque with the desert.
Exactly.
Yeah, and now you're in the trees and beautiful area. Do you get car sick when you're driving? I had a friend who came to visit from out here, and as we were going down the highway, he's like, whoa, I can't take this. I was like, what's wrong? He said, I'm getting all these trees. I'm getting car sick.
Right. Like, because of the tunnel vision.
It's beautiful. I love it so much.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I'm not used to, like, I'm starting to see things that I only saw on TV growing up as a kid.
Oh, wow.
You know, me being a little res boy on you know, living in Arizona on the desert, I never thought I could drive on a road with trees above me. You know, very suburban. It looks like a rom-com. You know, you're driving. You think you're gonna meet Tom Hanks or something. But
hilarious.
yeah, but that's literally how it is here. So yeah. So in a nutshell, that's what I've been doing. But enough of me. What have you been doing?
I went back to school. I decided that, I needed to get a master's. And so I'm actually in the Master's of Public Administration program at UNM on my second year. So that took up a lot of time, a lot of energy. It's a really great program. I'm really enjoying it. And this semester, it's all math. It's public budgeting and statistics.
Oh, wow.
Well, let's be real clear and real honest. I haven't had a math class since 2002. So there's the steep learning curve that's going to happen. And I didn't do so well in that math class anyway, because in my undergrad, I only had to have one and I just had to pass it. Not excel, not do well, pass. And so that's what I did. I just got through it and didn't look back and didn't realize that I was going to need it for later. So all you kids out there, some of your young decisions will affect you later. So that's why I actually am taking the statistics class, if I could actually talk, at the community college. That's my level. And it's a great level to be at. The kids are getting bigger. I think there were some clips maybe of Jared, who was months old. He is now climbing on everything. Karina's doing great. She loves school, which I'm hoping that will keep that love going. So that's what we've been doing. We've been living life and living large and trying to make it through quarantine. Yeah, what have you been doing to survive quarantine?
So, I mean, if it wasn't enough the fact that I lifted up my whole entire family and moved across country,
oh wow,
we end up getting here and we got to enjoy pretty good amount of months. Mind it was in the most humid time to be in the East Coast, which we know nothing about. I don't know what humidity is. I've read about it.
Now you do.
Yeah. I've seen it on the news, but no, I've never walked around with, a shirt full of sweat without working out.
I've heard about this in books and stories.
Yeah. So anyway, besides all that, we get here, we get to do the whole, yay, we get to see Washington, D.C., and then the quarantine happens, and it's like, guess what? We're going to stay in our house now, and we're going to live here for the rest of our lives and not move. It's been interesting. My wife is still continuing to work, but she works at a practice where there's not a lot of people that come in. They're doing a lot of telework, but she still goes in. Myself, I've been self-quarantined since early March. Yeah,
we have two, and both of us are working from home. Let me just say that it gets very difficult when you don't have anyone else to blame for not doing the coffee. So we created Cheryl. Cheryl is our personal assistant. And when things aren't done, we're just like, oh, that's Cheryl. So instead of getting mad at each other, we have someone else to get mad at. It saved our marriage. Because when you're working at home, living at home, raising the kids at home, and I was going to show you this, I actually created a whole schedule for the kids, because them quarantine, I mean, they're little. They really don't have, it was like, we go to school. We don't go to school anymore. I want to go see my friend. My daughter literally a couple of weeks ago actually said to me, Mom, I don't think I remember my alphabets anymore. I was like, but Sesame Street is playing 15 hours a day. How are you not knowing your alphabet?
She misses her
So
home.
we had to do some different things to make sure that they're getting the socialization that they need, make sure that they're getting the learning that they're craving. So yeah, that's where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're 6 to 7 months into this, and my son, he barely had well, we're calling it, bro time, because the moms want to call it a play date, and he's not down for that. But yeah, he barely started having some bro time, and it's been 6 months, so it's been hard. But interesting though. I mean, I had to create a schedule. It's only me and the boy here, because my daughters are in the West Coast, and they're dealing with their own schedules too. But I call them and FaceTime them and make sure they're doing what they need to be doing. But me and the boy, it's like, no, you get up, you got to get up, you got to shower, you better brush your teeth. Yeah, I'll have some food ready for you. And you get to work. This is like a work job for you now, and I'm not going to let you just sit in your PJs and think you can just lay on the couch with a laptop on your chest and you're at school. It's like, no, you're going to get dressed, you're going to brush your hair, and you're going to look good in front of your teacher on Zoom.
You're a hard dad. I was like, nah, man. Pants, who needs them? Clothes, why are we doing this? I literally have a picture of my kids who decided their own outfits one day. It was hilarious. And for those of you listening, you can't see her, but she has joined the podcast. Why Lucy has joined the podcast, I don't know, because she's got food, she's got water, she may want to go outside. So while I'm going to let her outside in this microsecond, which is good because, when you just talked about wearing clothes, I actually put on pants for this podcast. So you are welcome. Tell us what else you've been doing to survive quarantine.
Absolutely. So, I mean, quarantine's been fun because the fact that we do live in a gated community. We live in what we call the graveyard. I've been basically acting like a cast member of Beetlejuice. I'm just a crazy old person sitting on my porch, and every once in a while we'll have someone walk by, and I'm just like, "Hi, how are you?" And they don't want to talk to you because they want social distancing. But yeah. That's what we've been doing.
Well, you know what else? I got all the things. I mean, when I tell you that I've had the Netflix, I've had the Hulu. We had to have Disney Plus. I mean, everything Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because we don't have. Let me just also preface this with saying we don't have regular TVs. Like, I don't get the regular channels. I don't get the news. So that's why we like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, YouTube.
Right.
Those have been my saving grace. And just let me tell you, Netflix has had some really cool things come out. I know they were doing the Avatar, but they just popped up Legend of Korra.
Yes.
Are you watching this? Are you watching this?
Of course I am. Just as I have it propped up here, ready to go. Yeah. I mean, it all started with the Avatar, Last Airbender. And when that came out, I started watching it, and I was blown away, completely blown away by it. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna fake the funk. I didn't watch it when it first came out. Like, I didn't even realize that it was around back in 2004. So I was a college student, and I mean, I was aware of it. I mean, as far as seeing my classmates, because I went to an art school, and so everyone was into Naruto, and they were into Avatar: Last Airbender, and they would wear outfits that would look like cosplay. They would at college at my art school. You can get away with that stuff at art school, but yeah, I
didn't get away with that anywhere. Anyway, go ahead.
No, but I didn't pay any mind, and so now here I am because of Netflix. I'm getting to watch these things, and I fell in love with Avatar and the whole story. And then now that Legend of Korra has hit, and I'm kind of confused because you're seeing on the internet where everyone just hates on everything. You see the back and forth of people feeling like, I don't think I really like Legend of Korra. I didn't see, it didn't have the same feel as, the Avatar. And I'm just like,
well, it didn't. And it wasn't supposed to, because, well, I got into Avatar because of M. Night Shyamalan's really bad movie. Hello? Keep coming. Yeah. I'd say, so that's how I got into it. And then I kind of had to bootleg it. And then, which led me into Legend of Korra. And that's how I found, but Avatar, well, The Last Airbender, not Aang. We're not even going to talk about the movie. We're going straight to the series. It has three, it has 3 seasons. I'll get my words together. 3 seasons.
Right.
And then Legend of Korra brings in 4 seasons. And if you look at each one, they're the 4 elements, 4 directions, and then it's spirits, changes, balance, which coincides so much with the 7 directions. I was like, holy smackerels. And then the way they portray both the cultures that are inspired by different cultures.
Yes.
It's still very well-rounded. You know, it's not like this over-romanticized kind of, the waterbenders aren't these over-romanticized Inupiaq culture. I mean, it's a very solid, you know, like real. And same thing with their female characters, which is what I loved. It's like, it isn't just, you know, like in the 90s, there was always the 3 friends, and you knew one was going to be a white boy, one was going to be the white girl, and the other one was going to be the black guy.
Absolutely.
Like, but neither the girl nor the black guy felt very well rounded. It was just like they were there, and the center of the action was always the little white boy. This felt like, and Korra is a very well rounded character, but not just her. The other side characters are Asami. She is a very well rounded human being, and I absolutely love that. I am so here for it.
Right. And, you know, that's the thing I appreciate not only from Avatar, but now with Legend of Korra, is that there's no doubt that people of color are the key representation of these episodes and these shows. And I love it. You know, I think, you know, we mentioned it to each other before when we were talking, you know, before we started, was that when you look at Korra, there's like no doubt, unapologetically, she's a person of color. And I love that. And I love that she's strong, and, you know, she doesn't take anything from anybody, you know. And I read somewhere, because the reason why she's that way is because she's supposed to be the opposite of what Aang's supposed to be. And Aang never wanted to portray himself that way. He never wanted to be strong and dominant.
Aang didn't want to fight.
No,
he didn't want to. He did everything he could. No spoilers for anyone, but he did everything he could not to defeat, or not to actually fight, and not to kill the Fire Nation Lord. He did everything in his power, whereas Korra is, she's straight off like, let's fight.
Yeah.
Let's fight. Yeah. I mean, and if you go through the history, because again, super nerd over here, when she gets into something, she like totally gets into something. And yes, I just talked about myself in the third person. But if you look at each Avatar previous, Firebender, the Firebender one, whose name I can't remember because I can't remember names. He also was, no, we have to make sure we do these things a certain way. The one before him, the Earthbender one, she was very law, order, by the book. And then the guy before her, the waterbender before Korra, he didn't even get to be Avatar very long, because he was like, who cares? I'm just gonna play and have a good time. I mean, so I very much, as a writer, I appreciate the storytelling. I appreciate the character development, and I really appreciate the series.
Look, for me, the biggest takeaway from both the series is, and especially Korra, is that I appreciate all the callbacks to Avatar, you know, and how they're keeping that story in there. I mean, and they have to, you know, but I mean, they're showing, when I saw Aang old, I was just blown away by that. I was just like, oh man, look at him, he's so boss. You know, and then you see the relationship with Aang and his kids, which I think is a crucial story in the whole Legend of Korra. I mean, showing that Tenzin, who just wants to please his father and you know, carry on this burden of trying to maintain this culture of airbending, because he and his family are the last airbenders again, you know. So he has that burden of culture.
Have
Which,
you finished the series yet?
I am now ending season 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just save that. We'll come back and talk about Legend of Korra later.
Yeah.
When you get through the end, because it's again amazing. Yeah, my favorite is it's in season 1 where they ramsack Cabbage Corps. It's like, Cabbage Corps,
right?
like, not my cabbages. I was like, yes, the guy is back. I missed him.
I was laughing so hard, and my wife's just like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, "You don't get it. I don't know why. I don't even know why you're sitting by me." But one thing that I have been doing, and I just wanted to bring it up, was that we've been talking about what have we been doing since season 1, and what have we been doing since this quarantine. Well, we've been watching a lot of Netflix. That's what we've been doing, and I agree. I'm like you. We have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have Disney Plus. Streaming 24/7. But that's not the only thing. I'm also snacking. I'm totally like COVID-19. It might as well be the COVID-50.
I know that's right.
So I'm definitely finding myself snacking, and that's not good. But I am trying to find better choices to snack on. And one that I found that I really, I questioned it, but I'm really starting to like it. It's from one of our partners at Magic Spoon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Magic Spoon, but Magic Spoon is a healthy cereal that I promise you, it doesn't taste like a box. A lot of times when I think of anything healthy, to me, it's always bland and it always just tastes like cardboard. But Magic Spoon isn't that. In fact, when you think of cereal, you have to realize Americans, we eat 100 bowls of cereal a year. And most of that's kids. Most of that's kids. And what are they eating? They're eating sugar. I watch my boy. My boy does it. My God, the amount of cereal he goes through, and I look at it and I'm just like, that's a lot of sugar. And as a Native American, I'm always questioning my sugar intake. But with Magic Spoon, it gives you all those flavors that you grew up with, but without the guilt. It has everything you need, or everything you should want. It's gluten-free, grain-free, low carb, high protein, which is a plus for me, and 0 grams of sugar per serving. Now, I know that sounds like you took away everything. It must taste like a box. But honestly, I'm telling you, it tastes great because they have all the flavors that you grew up with as a kid. They have that fruity flavor, frosted, cocoa, and blueberry. Me personally, I really love the fruity.
I'm going to be honest. I thought cocoa was going to be the one for me. Blueberry. Oh, my goodness.
It's my understanding that blueberry is like the big favorite. But for me, I've just really started to like the fruity one. Look, if you guys want to eat a bowl of cereal, which I like to put at least 2 servings in there. For me, 2 servings in a bowl is just under 300 calories. And that's perfect for me. I literally could eat 2 bowls of cereal a day, and it would be under 600 calories. That's less than a meal through a drive-through. So I love it. I'm starting to make it a routine here at the house. And if that sounds good for you or our listeners, like I said, Magic Spoon is a sponsor of ours, and our listeners at the Wrong NDN Podcast can get free shipping on their next order. All you have to do is go to the promo code at magicspoon.com and put in Wrong NDN Podcast. That's the word wrong, the letters NDN, and the word podcast, and put that in your promo code, and you get free shipping from Magic Spoon.
Where do they go again?
They go to magicspoon.com.
I can tell you this. It's not just about what we're eating. It's also about taking action. I just talked yesterday in my Instagram stories, which you can check out at It's Brittany Shulman, about, finding that space of moving your body. And I love that my dog wants in on this podcast so much. But we have a friend of the podcast, FNX Fit. They are committed to creating innovative supplements at the highest quality that provide focus for productive morning, energy to thrive all day, performance supplements to reach new goals, unique sleep recovery, all of the things that you need to reach your goals. And we are so excited that they are with us and supporting us. I have been using the FNX Recharge, which has been used to, which is a pre-workout. I'll get my words together in a minute. It helps improve workout duration, time to exhaustion. I know that when I'm using this before my morning runs, I am going longer and I'm going longer, shorter amount of time without that fatigue. Because, if you're going to school, if you're working a couple of jobs, you're going to have the fatigue. And this helps me not have that. I also use the FNX Recover, which is BCAA complex. It improves energy performance, increases blood flow, and it helps your muscles recover. And I know that when I use this, I do not get the leg cramps. And the two flavors that I have, strawberry lemonade and the raspberry lemonade, yes, I like lemonade, and they are actually really, really good. I've tried different supplements in the past or different things like this, and they don't taste good. There was one way back in the day. I was using it, putting it in. I was like, whoa, that's like eggs. It's like, oh, it was like rotten eggs. It was horrible. But these actually both smell and taste really great. And sometimes I'll mix them together and they're awesome. But not only do they have workout supplements, they also have sleep aids, super greens, collagen and hair gummies, as well as ebooks. I mean, if you're looking to reach your goals, they have ebooks to help you. Listeners of the podcast will get 15% off of their order by going to fnxfit.com and entering in promo code Wrong NDN at checkout. Again, that's fnxfit.com. Enter the word wrong, letters NDN. And that will get you 15% off your next order. If this is something you're interested in, make sure that you head that direction. Any orders that you make with Magic Spoon, FNX Fit, they help the podcast out. They help us continue to provide awesome content. And so we just want to thank them and also thank you.
Yeah, I mean, FNX, I when you brought them up to me, I was not 100% sure about them, and I decided to jump on board and try some of their creatine, and blown away. I mean, for me, when I work out, I want to make sure that I have, I want to feel good during recovery. And FNX with the creatine, I've done that. I get great recovery from it. And then I'm also very mental clarity. It gives me good mental clarity before and after my workout. Because a lot of times you get stuck in a fog, and I haven't seen that.
Nobody got time for that.
I don't got time. Yeah, I literally don't have time for that. And the one thing I've noticed too, just like you said, the taste is great. I'm not dealing with chalky flavors. I'm not dealing with disgusting aftertastes. FNX, I'm a fan.
So just to switch gears and really talk about, we've talked about quarantine, which has really sucked, but
right.
One of the things that's happening, and I'm going to be real honest, I haven't watched a whole lot of NBA since, the Dream Team, since Michael Jordan, because he's my man. Ooh. North Carolina, we actually used to play the school that he went to, and they had this huge life-size poster in their gym. So I haven't really been a fan of the NBA, but here recently, the NBA's decided to take a stand. They decided to boycott and no longer provide games. How's that making you feel?
I'm not surprised. I actually applaud it. It's my understanding, looking at the current news right now, they will be starting up games again. I believe over the weekend they will stop their boycott and start playing on Saturday. But as far as them doing it, I applaud them. They need to. Just like the NFL, just like Major League Baseball. And, there was an effect. There was a domino effect that happened. When the first NBA team spoke out, Major League Baseball canceled too, that night, and all that really does. And I'm seeing it a lot, like on ESPN and all these different sports shows. And I applaud them for saying this, is that they're not the experts, just like us. Mm-hmm. They don't got the solutions, but what they can do is cause an impact that can start a conversation.
Right. And the
And
conversation has truly been around the continued police killings of Black men. And I know I have a lot of Native friends who said, well, what about us? What about us? We also have similar statistics, we have similar issues, but oppression for one is oppression for all.
right.
And if we're not supporting our brothers and sisters in the Black Lives Matter movement and making sure that that voice is amplified, we also want that support when it comes to murder and missing Indigenous women. So all of these issues are all intertwined, and racism is not one. And racism is not a one person, one issue. It is the entire system. So yeah, having those players stand up and say, "No, we're not gonna entertain you as we're continually being killed." I think was a very bold move. I applaud, not only do I applaud the players, I also applaud the organization, because I think there's another professional organization that had some other players doing very similar protests and boycotts, and they didn't support their players. I could see that the NBA very much values and recognizes that its players have a right to voice that issue, bring it up to the table, and also support them in doing it rather than fining them.
Right. Yeah, and big ups to the WNBA as well.
Yes.
So, and you know what? That's what I really what. Okay, so not only just being in quarantine, but wanting to see sports come back. The NBA, WNBA have started, their seasons in a bubble, and when they did that, they came ready to wear shirts, hats. When they're speaking in public, they're constantly talking about the social injustices that are happening right now, and I love it, and I love the fact that they're not being censored,
Hmm.
and that for the first time in a long time, they're being heard. So
Yes.
yeah,
Um, and I just wanted to make sure that we shared with our audience ways that we could also support that movement, that we can continue to amplify Indigenous solidarity with Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Movement, Black Lives Matter. One is to donate to causes. You can show up for protests, support Black-owned businesses and creators, sign petitions, share information on social media, educate yourself, because there is a lot of history. We have a shared history as Indigenous peoples in America and as the Black community in America. There is a shared, particularly coming from the South. I know that there were we were also part of the slaves that were in plantations. There was a strong movement of fighting against slavery, of chattel slavery in the South, that was not just Indigenous people, not just Black people. It was us working together. So educating ourselves on that history and knowing that where that came from. And also, very important thing is to go vote. Voting is extremely important.
uh, one thing before we go into the voting, and it's been said before, everyone wants to talk about why should we be saying Black Lives Matter? It should be all lives matter, but at the end of the day, all lives matter can't happen until Black Lives Matter happens. And that goes for us too. Us as Native people, we need to show that solidarity. We will have our moments, and when we have those moments, we will have our Black brothers and sisters right behind us, just like we will and we are behind them right now. So, but yeah,
So,
no, you're absolutely, but you're absolutely right. Voting is important, especially right now in 2020.
well, it's the intersectionality. And there was a moment, we this week we are actually celebrating 100 years of women's suffrage, which is the 19th Amendment. Women got the vote, but not all women got the vote.
No.
In fact, because it was 1920, Native Americans weren't even citizens. So we're not even going to go there, how we didn't have the vote and how most of us didn't really get the vote until 1964. It's that intersectionality. But we do want to celebrate that, how far we've come. There was a whole movement on Twitter I was looking at that was all about different women from 13 to 110 talking about their right to vote and making sure that they're getting out there. Back in the 2016 election, I did a whole post on Facebook because I was just in my bubble. I thought things were going to turn out different. Let me be real clear. So I hope things turn out different this go around in that bubble. But my great-grandparents did not have the opportunity to vote. In fact, we have a story in my family that one of my grandfathers went to vote. He was asked to recite the preamble to the Constitution. He was told he missed one word. He pulled out his pocket Constitution because that's how natives are. We just have our Constitution ready to show. We're right here. Well, he pulled it out, showed him. He's like, no, this is the word. We end that story with, and he got to vote. But it's having to do those extra steps all along the way that is just so frustrating. And has historically left our voice out and historically kept us from not being able to fully participate as citizens of this country. And we are definitely citizens of this country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I was, it reminds me of a story of when African-American women were fighting to get that same vote, and they finally got it. But when they got it, Native American women still couldn't vote. And, there was a story about this one ally who would march, and she would march with the African-American women, and she would just remind them constantly, just don't forget about your Indian sisters. Don't forget about your Indian sisters. And, none of that came to fruition until, like you said, until 64, 65. I mean, and because of those examples that you said about your grandfather, people didn't get a full right to vote until sometime in the 80s, not having all those tests and loops and hurdles that they had to jump through. So it's crazy if you think about it. You think about, when you hear about, 100 years, congratulations, let's party, we've been able to vote since, 100 years. No.
It ain't been that long. Well, it ain't been that long. And then, also, my mother, who is she's not an old lady by any stretch of the imagination. She's a relatively young lady. She went to segregated schools.
Yeah.
She went to all Indian school for her first up until I think it was third grade. So we're still fighting some of the systemic racist systems. And it hasn't been that long ago. So that's part of why I'm always about intersectionality, making sure that we're including everyone in these movements and we are supporting all the movements, because it is all about moving us forward. And that's also why it's so important that we all get out and vote. And we're just so excited to be able to interview, because again, we started off the Wrong Indian podcast with just doing interviews of folks, and we're excited that we actually get to interview Tom Perez of the DNC. He's going to join us in a moment, and we're going to have a wonderful conversation and a frank conversation about voting this November and about Native Americans voting this November, what it really means.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. When we first started this podcast, I don't think we had any hope that we'd be able to have a discussion like we're about to have with the chairman of the DNC, Mr. Tom Perez. But we are, and we're excited and we're honored because, this vote, like, votes in the past, this is going to be a crucial one. 2020 is very important. And what we need to do is help be that voice to help Native Americans understand our vote matters. Chairman Perez, it's a pleasure to have you on the Wrong Indian Podcast to talk about voting this November.
I'm honored to be with you.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We have a lot of young audience members. Can you briefly explain to them what is the DNC?
That's a great question. Our mission at the DNC is to help elect Democrats from the school board to the Oval Office. And we do so by building strong parties, and state parties across the country, and building strong partnerships. Among the accomplishments I'm most proud of was the election in 2018 of Deb Haaland and Sharice Davids. Literally 3 nights ago, I did a fundraiser. I spoke at a fundraiser for Sharice. She's become a good friend. She was a vice chair of our Democratic National Convention, first term member of Congress, already doing stuff like that. Deb was on our platform committee and the Democratic Party, among other things. We work with the candidate and all stakeholders to prepare our party platform, and Deb was neck deep in that. So our goal is to help Democrats win up and down the ballot. People tend to associate us with the presidential, but we are undeniably neck deep in the presidential. We are equally involved in making sure we win elections across the country, and state, federal, local, building that bench for tomorrow.
So for me, the most important question I have for you is, how important is the Native American vote?
Oh, the Native American vote's huge. And I look at the presidential race and I see remarkable opportunity. You look at the presidential and then look at these Senate races, okay? And in the presidential, you take a look at a state like Arizona would be a great example. We have an opportunity to win Arizona, not only for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but for Mark Kelly, number of congressional seats as well. And we know that there's a fusion coalition that we're building, and that fusion coalition is Native American, African American, Latino, white Democrats, a number of Republicans who were John McCain Republicans in Arizona, who look at the party of Trump and just see a party that's foreign to them. So we invested heavily in Native American organizing in Arizona, which is one of our critical battleground states. It's not the only place where the Native American vote is enormously important. And by the way, the Native American vote on the reservations is huge, and we have organizers on the ground. But we also recognize that we have organizers in Phoenix, because we have so many Native populations, not only in Phoenix, but for instance, Minnesota is a battleground state, a large Native population there. We have Wisconsin, where we just held our convention. The Potawatomi was a big sponsor, Ho-Chunk, big sponsor, Oneida, big help. And so again, I can take you around the horn. I look at Michigan, and I see tremendous opportunity for cultivating the Native American vote. I go down to North Carolina, Florida, et cetera. So I mean, the Native American vote can be huge, and we have made larger investments than ever before. And it starts with Teresa Sheldon, who is our Native American political director. And Teresa, as you know, is a rock star. Comes from the Tulalip tribe in Washington State. And she's just been a great leader for us, and has really provided a lot of thought leadership. One of our former employees, Pauwi Rivera, left the DNC to go work on campaigns, and now he's working on the Biden campaign. And he's also working in the Western United States. So it's really, really critical that we talk to everyone. And, I think we can do really well in Indian country. And I've worked really hard. I've spent a lot of time in Arizona with tribal leaders, whether it was President Nez, Governor Lewis, other tribal leaders in Arizona. I think I look at what this president's response was on coronavirus, and I look at how insulting it was, quite frankly, to Native American populations, and the fact that a lawsuit needed to be filed just to release funds. That's just unconscionable. And so we recognize we have to earn people's votes, and that's exactly what we're doing.
We very much appreciate that extra work, and knowing that this presidential election is for not trying to sound extreme, but is one of the most important elections. And I'm hearing all of the really strong work that you're doing to make sure that those swing states, because we know that Native Americans in a lot of those states make up that swing vote and can move it all the way blue. What are some of the other things, maybe when it's not a presidential election, that the DNC does to ensure that Native Americans are part of that democratic process?
Well, having Teresa at the DNC to help us oversee this and make sure we're doing it every year, everywhere, is that's where it starts. We also have opportunities. I mentioned, for instance, Montana, hugely important Senate race there. And I think the Native American vote is going to be huge for Steve Bullock. Ben Ray Lujan running for Senate in New Mexico. And the Native American vote there is going to be huge. And having already worked with Deb, and I actually campaigned with Deb, and we went, we actually went home to her tribe, and we had a wonderful day together. And so, and I'm a big fan of making sure we're building the bench. So when you ask about what we're doing in a non-presidential year, we're making sure we find opportunity where we get it. So for instance, in 2018, there was a really spirited race for governor in South Dakota. Billy Sutton, I think it was his last name. We spent well into six figures organizing in Indian country because it was really important. In North Dakota, trying to help Heidi Heitkamp. Didn't get across the finish line there, but Libby Schneider, who is now our rural political director, was Heidi's campaign manager. And so, and you may recall what happened there in North Dakota. They tried to suppress the Native American vote. And we ended up doing a lot of work to make sure that, literally helping to get identification for voters so that they could meet the new requirements that were frankly put in place to suppress the Native American vote, plainly and simply. So that's another example of something we're doing. We filed lawsuits to vindicate rights of tribal voters. So in Arizona, for instance, we filed a lawsuit actually back in 2016 because, as you know, on a lot of tribal lands, where you live is really a long way away from where you would drop off your ballot. And so a common practice in Indian country in places like Arizona is for a person to go to say 10 or 20 different homes, get 40 ballots that people have filled out, and carry them to the drop-off point. Well, Arizona passed a law forbidding that practice. And they knew the impact of that in Indian country. And frankly, they passed the law because they wanted to make it harder for people to vote. And we won that case. The appellate court was explicit in saying this was all about shenanigans. This was all about suppressing the Native American vote. And so these are the types of things that we're doing. And my goal is to make sure, and for all your listeners, we're working hard to earn your vote. We don't take your vote for granted. And we know that when everyone turns out, we do well. And, when we do well, and I had the privilege when I worked for President Obama of doing a lot of work in Indian country. And I think the difference between Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris on the one hand, and Donald Trump on the other is one word: respect. Two words: respect and sovereignty. We have respect for tribal sovereignty. Joe Biden understands that. He did a lot of work in the Violence Against Women Act to address violence in Indian country. Donald Trump simply looks at tribes as competition for his gaming. And there's just fundamentally no respect. Watching the Republican convention try to reinvent Donald Trump as a person with a heart is laughable. And we saw that in the stimulus bill, that the fact that lawsuit needed to be filed to release stimulus funds, the fact that in southern Arizona, the Tohono O'odham tribe sacred burial sites dug up to build a damn wall. I mean, that gets down to what I said: respect, respect, respect. The Democratic Party respects sovereignty, respects our relationships, and is working really hard to make sure we earn people's votes and make sure they come out this November, because this is an election of our lifetime.
Absolutely. And the last question for me is, how can a regular person who isn't involved in politics get involved during this election season?
Oh, so many ways. You can text TRIBE to 30330, and you can get information on how to get involved. You can also make sure that all of your neighbors are voting, and do so by going to iwillvote.com. So no matter where you live, you can get information. Type in your name and your zip code, and you will be able to register, confirm your registration, get an absentee ballot, etc. I think the most effective forms of organizing are peer-to-peer, and that is why we've worked really hard to make sure on the Biden team and on the DNC team that we're hiring from the communities. And so if you want to get involved, we've got 67 days or so until this election, and we need help. And we want people to get organized. And you can go to Democrats.org. You can call Teresa up, okay? Teresa Sheldon, Sheldon T at dnc.org. You email her there, and she would be glad to try to help connect folks, because influencers like the two of you are really important. I know that there's a tendency for people right now to kind of throw up their arms and say, does my vote really matter? What's the difference? And the difference is life and death. I mean, look at where we are right now. We have 4 crises. We have the pandemic, and Donald Trump has been a colossal failure. And that pandemic, as you know, has disproportionately touched tribal communities. We've seen that. And we can't even get the money needed to the communities because of this lack of respect. We have an economic pandemic. You look at this economy is in the tank right now, and the Native American communities have been disproportionately impacted. We have a civil rights pandemic. That's why we had this march today. We have a president who adds gasoline to the fire. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that hate crimes are on the rise under this president, because he fans the flames of unrest. We have a climate crisis. I mean, you look at these tornadoes, and you look at these hurricanes, you look at the wildfires in California. And again, when you have a president who's a climate denier, that's real trouble. So the question is, who's going to be our leader? Who can get us out of these 4 crises? And who's going to have your back? Who's going to trust you, respect you, and work for you? And if you're interested, again, getting involved, Democrats.org. You can text TRIBE to 30330, getting involved that way. And I hope you will. I hope everyone will. One of the reasons I wanted to be on this podcast was to really talk about what we're doing, and talk about the fact that we're going to work hard to earn your vote, because we know that we're not entitled to any votes, but we're going to work hard to earn your votes. And it's impossible to overstate how much is at stake this November. This is the most dangerous president in American history, and our democracy as we know it is truly on the ballot. So I look forward to continuing our dialogue, and I want to win places like Arizona, not only to have Joe Biden there, but also to win with a major league assist from the Native American community in Arizona and elsewhere. And I know we can make it happen, and we're going to continue to work hard to earn your trust and to earn people's votes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and really emphasizing the importance of this election, but also really emphasizing the importance of the Native American vote and the work that you're doing to make sure that our voices are heard. And listeners, we want to make sure that you get out and vote on November 3rd. So make sure you're either getting your absentee ballot, you're mailing in your ballot, or you're getting in line with your mask. Thank you so much.
And what I would ask everyone to do is make a plan. Okay, November 3rd is the last day to vote. In most states, if you live in Arizona, it's by no means the first day to vote. So make a plan. Go to iwillvote.com. Get your information. Get your ballot. If you live in New Mexico, same thing. California, you're going to have those ballots. Get them back. Get them back early. Don't put your don't make it dependent on the U.S. mail. If you mail it in early, then all of these challenges that we're having as a result of the president's shenanigans will become irrelevant because you mailed your ballot in on October the 10th. So make sure you get out there and get your friends out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chairman.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Wasn't that just an amazing interview with Chairman Tom Perez of the DNC?
I am going to be real honest. I had some reservations going in, but I am appreciative that they are looking to earn our vote because no one should ever take our vote lightly. So Absolutely. I was very happy to hear some of the things that they're doing.
No. And I think he demonstrated that well, that that the DNC is not going to take our vote lightly and they're going to earn it. And then big shout out. I was so happy to hear that Tom brought up Teresa Sheldon. I mean, I think she's doing such a great job out there being a voice for Indian country. And it's awesome to hear him say it.
And maybe we can get her on the podcast. I would love to hear her talk about some of these issues moving forward.
Absolutely.
But we want to say thank you, listeners, for joining us on this special episode of the Wrong NDN Podcast. We are going to launch season 2 on October 5th, wherever podcasts are found, as well as on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you have a favorite, I mean, if you're a Spotify person, we're there. If you like iTunes, we're there. If you're one of those other people who like other things that are not popular, we're there.
No, I'm actually genuinely excited about this season because we are going to launch a series called How to Dress Like an Indian. And for us, dressing like an Indian means to buy from native-owned brands. And we're going to be interviewing different native-owned brand owners who wrote this script. From Ashe Beauty to Urban Native Era. And we hope that you'll discover more about these businesses and that, maybe you can dress like an Indian.
And I promise by October 5th, we will we'll get our cadence down and, Brittany won't stumble on her script.
Maybe not. We'll see.
Who knows? Keep it real.
Also, be sure that you do find us. You follow us on Wrong NDN, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like us, rate us, comment us, subscribe us.
Yeah, I mean, your feedback's important. Your feedback's 100% important to us. For the podcast itself, rating is really important. But most of all, if you were listening earlier, you like some cereal, go to magicspoon.com, use promo code Wrong NDN Podcast. And if you're looking into getting fit, we have partners at FNX. And what's that promo code?
FNXfit.com.
What's that promo code, Brittany?
Wrong Indian. The word wrong, the letters NDN.
And where can they get that? And
they can get it from FNXfit.com.
Awesome. And yeah, go out there if you're interested. Go see our partners because we all need help in this, and so we want to keep doing this for you guys. And by doing that, show some support and some love.
And if you need more of us in the meantime, in between time, don't forget to follow us individually on Facebook, Twitter. We'll get to Twitter. Twitter's a thing. We'll get to it. Yeah. But definitely Facebook and Instagram. If you want to see some workouts, I'll be working out badly, but I'll be working out.
If you want to see, me eating a slice of pizza, no, I'll be eating bowls of cereal with Magic Spoon for sure. No, but you can catch me at KJ Escalante all over. Mostly, I'm a stories person. I rarely post things, so hit me up on the stories.
Awesome. Thank you again for tuning in to the Wrong NDN Podcast.
It's awesome. See you guys later.